Every MLB team's biggest bust player explained. Arizona Diamondbacks, Corey Myers. Corey Myers joined the Diamondbacks in 1999 as a top shortstop prospect with lightning hands and major league bat speed. Drafted 4th overall, he played 9 seasons in the minors without a single call-up. He struggled against upper-level pitching and never hit over 260 past single-A. Regardless of his potential, he stalled badly. Simply put, Myers went from big hype to big bust without even reaching the show. Atlanta Braves Wilson Betemet. The Braves discovered Wilson Betemet early and quickly believed they found their future at shortstop. By 19, he was crushing double-A arms and making scouts nod. But the magic didn't last. In the majors, he lacked plate discipline and couldn't hit for power. He bounced around as a utility man instead of anchoring a lineup. That being said, his promise vanished and the Braves quietly moved on. Baltimore Orioles Brian Matoush. Brian Matoush looked like a future ace when the Orioles drafted him 4th overall in 2008. Standing tall with a smooth delivery and deceptive movement, he looked like the next big thing. However, walks piled up and hitters adjusted. He finished his career with a 5.61 ERA and spent more time in the bullpen than on the mound. Boston Red Sox Blake Swihart. Blake Swihart ranked as one of the top catching prospects in baseball when the Red Sox called him up in 2015. He could switch hit, move well, and seemed to have all the tools. However, his glove lagged behind, and his bat never showed real consistency. He hit 243 over nearly 700 at-bats, and the injuries didn't help either. In the end, Boston's next great catcher became just another missed opportunity. Chicago White Sox Joe Borchard. Joe Borchard had everything going for him. He played football at Stanford, mashed baseballs in college, and earned a $5.3 million bonus. The White Sox believed his raw power would translate to major league bombs, but he struck out often and hit just .205 in the big leagues. Eventually, his career faded into disappointment. Chicago Cubs Josh Vitters. Josh Vitters came to Chicago with high expectations as the 3rd overall pick in 2007. He had a smooth right-handed swing and showed early flashes in the minors. But he stalled hard at AAA and couldn't handle big league pitching. In 2012, he batted .121 in his only real shot. To sum it up, Vitters lacked plate discipline, didn't walk, and never evolved. Cincinnati Reds Nick Senzel. Nick Senzel looked like the real deal when the Reds picked him 2nd overall in 2016. He rose through the system quickly, showing contact skills and defensive flexibility. But once he reached the majors, injuries took over. He battled vertigo, had multiple surgeries, and his production dipped. Over 4 seasons, he hit just .239, and the Reds gave up. Cleveland Guardians Matt Laporta. Matt Laporta was the centerpiece of the CC Sabathia trade in 2008. The Guardians thought they were landing a future slugger with serious pop. He did hit 31 homers in the majors, but his .238 average and subpar on-base numbers told a different story. He never adjusted to big league pitching, and by the time his chance ran out, he had fallen behind younger prospects. Colorado Rockies Chin Hui Tsao. Chin Hui Tsao became Taiwan's first major league pitcher when the Rockies signed him in 1999. He quickly rose through the minors, striking out everyone in sight. But elbow injuries hit hard. In the majors, he posted a 5.75 ERA and never developed control. Later, he got caught in a betting scandal overseas, and that marked the end for him. Detroit Tigers Jacob Turner. Jacob Turner received a $4.7 million bonus after going 4th overall in 2009. He made the majors at 20 and looked poised to take over the rotation. However, poor fastball command and flat off-speed pitches doomed him. He bounced from team to team, finishing with a 5.37 ERA over 369 innings. Detroit traded him, hoping for a spark elsewhere. But Turner never became the pitcher they imagined. Houston Astros Mark Appel. Mark Appel went 1st overall in 2013 after dominating at Stanford. Then Houston gave him a huge bonus, hoping he'd fast-track to the rotation, but he never reached the majors with them. His velocity dropped, injuries came, and command problems worsened. He was traded to the Phillies, retired in 2018, and briefly returned in 2022 as a reliever. Kansas City Royals Bubba Starling. The Royals signed Bubba Starling in 2011 with a massive $7.5 million bonus. He was a two-sport phenom with raw tools, and they believed he would become a 5-tool star. However, his bat always lagged. He struck out too much, rarely walked, and hit just .204 in the majors. Los Angeles Angels Brandon Wood. Brandon Wood hit 43 homers in High A and climbed into the top 5 prospect rankings. And the Angels thought they had found the next Troy Glaus. But Wood struck out constantly in the majors and hit just .186 over 4 seasons. His confidence collapsed, and so did his swing. Eventually, the Angels cut ties. His rise was fast, but his fall came even faster. Los Angeles Dodgers. Joel Guzman. Joel Guzman was a 6'6" shortstop with huge power and a massive signing bonus. The Dodgers saw him as a future superstar and moved him through the system quickly. However, his swing had too many holes, and he couldn't hit breaking balls. He got traded to the Rays, but nothing changed. In the majors, he hit .232 in limited action and quietly disappeared from the spotlight. Miami Marlins, Tyler Kolek. Tyler Kolek lit up radar guns in high school, throwing 100 miles per hour with ease. So the Marlins drafted him second overall in 2014, believing he'd anchor their rotation for years. But control issues, surgery, and poor conditioning slowed him down. He never made it past Single A, and the Marlins eventually released him. Kolek went from flame-throwing phenom to a major bust in just a few years. Milwaukee Brewers, Nick Neugebauer. Nick Neugebauer looked like a fireballer with a high ceiling. He had strikeout stuff and climbed the Brewers' system quickly, but his lack of control followed him everywhere. He walked too many batters and could not command the strike zone. In the majors, he posted a 4.99 ERA and more walks than wins. Injuries made things worse, and his once promising arm faded before it fully developed. Minnesota Twins, Adam Johnson. Adam Johnson went second overall in the 2000 draft, but expectations crumbled fast. His fastball lacked movement, and his command never sharpened. In only 4 games with the Twins, he gave up 30 runs in just 26 innings. Hitters crushed him, and confidence vanished. He bounced around the minors afterward, but never returned to form. New York Mets, Bill Pulsipher. Bill Pulsipher dominated the minors with electric strikeouts and heavy buzz. He came up in 1995 as part of the Mets' Generation K trio, and fans hoped for a dynasty. But his 5.15 ERA over 327 innings showed a different story. Elbow injuries slowed him, and mental fatigue kicked in. He paid the price for rushing arms too fast and never found steady ground again. New York Yankees, Jacoby Ellsbury. Jacoby Ellsbury joined the Yankees in 2014 with a massive $153 million deal. He had speed, defense, and playoff experience. However, injuries kept piling up, and by 2019, he missed the entire season while collecting over $20 million in salary. He never returned to action for the Yankees again. The front office regretted the deal, and fans rarely even saw him in uniform during those later years. Oakland Athletics, Todd Van Poppel. Todd Van Poppel came out of high school with a heater that touched 100 miles per hour, and that convinced Oakland they found a generational pitcher. However, shoulder injuries slowed him, and his mechanics never adjusted. He posted a 5.58 ERA over an 11-year career, bouncing around several teams. What started with big headlines ended with quiet exits and underwhelming performances year after year. Philadelphia Phillies, Eric Milton. Eric Milton had success with the Twins and came to Philadelphia with solid numbers. Afterward, the Reds handed him a $25 million deal, but that backfired instantly. He gave up 40 home runs in 2005 and finished with a 6.47 ERA. Fans lost patience quickly, and his arm failed to recover. Once a reliable starter, he became known more for bloated stats than clutch pitching moments. Pittsburgh Pirates, John Van Benschoten. John Van Benschoten was drafted 8th overall for his powerful bat. However, the Pirates decided to use him as a pitcher. Early signs looked promising until injuries hit. He reached the majors with a 9.20 ERA and walked more than he struck out. Sadly, his big league career collapsed thanks to control problems and misused potential from the start. San Diego Padres, Sean Abner. Sean Abner was the first overall pick in 1984 and carried expectations of a 5-tool player. The Padres hoped he would become a game-changing outfielder. Instead, his career never took off. He hit just .227 with minimal power across 6 seasons, injuries later sidelined him, and he faded out quietly. San Francisco Giants, Gary Brown. Gary Brown flashed speed, defense, and sneaky power in the minors. In 2011, He posted 14 home runs and 50 steals in high A. Scouts loved his hustle and instincts. But he never adjusted to higher-level pitching. When called up, he had just 7 at-bats and was quickly passed over. His development stalled, and he never lived up to the promise that once surrounded his name. Seattle Mariners, Ryan Anderson. Ryan Anderson stood out instantly with his height, lefty arm, and strikeout ability. He was called the next Randy Johnson, and he dominated in early minor league seasons. But his command faltered and arm injuries became frequent. In fact, he never made a major league appearance. Though the Mariners waited patiently, the dominance never returned, and his career ended before it ever began. St. Louis Cardinals, Rick Ankiel. Rick Ankiel had one of the most heartbreaking stories in baseball. As a rookie pitcher, he threw 194 strikeouts and looked like an ace. But in the 2000 playoffs, he lost all control and couldn't find the plate. Wild pitches and walks followed, forcing him to reinvent himself as an outfielder. But his potential on the mound was gone forever. Tampa Bay Rays Josh Hamilton. Josh Hamilton had all the tools and was drafted #1 overall in 1999 by Tampa Bay. However, off-field struggles and substance abuse kept him away from the game for years. He never played a game for the Rays and was left unprotected in the Rule 5 draft. Cincinnati picked him, and he later became an MVP in Texas. But for Tampa, he was a total bust. Texas Rangers Leody Taveras. Leody Taveras came through the Rangers system as a top 50 prospect with elite speed and defense. The hope was he'd grow into a consistent leadoff hitter. However, his bat never took off. He hovered around .260 with little power or on-base value. And after 5 seasons, he stayed mostly in a platoon role. The tools were there, but the production didn't follow, and his star faded over time. Toronto Blue Jays Kyle Drabek. Kyle Drabek was the centerpiece in the Roy Halladay trade. His stuff impressed scouts, and he entered the top prospect list fast. But elbow problems led to Tommy John surgery in 2012. But he never fully recovered. What started as a promising young pitcher turned into a reminder of how risky pitching prospects can be. Washington Nationals Carter Kieboom. Carter Kieboom was once seen as the Nationals' next big bat. He hit over 300 in AAA and showed patience at the plate. But in the majors, he batted just .199 and lacked power. His confidence dipped and he couldn't hold the third base job. Despite multiple chances, he never broke through. The Nationals kept hoping, but the results told a terrible story every time. Now, if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to our channel for more baseball action.